I've been divorced 9 times, and I've used the same lawyer for every single settlement. So when I showed up at his office again, that unflappable man finally lost his composure. You've really made a career out of this, haven't you? I raised an eyebrow, my lips curling into a slow smile. You're the one who set me on this path, remember? He exhaled sharply, tossing the documents onto his desk. Mila, I'm your first ex-husband, not your personal divorce attorney. Stop treating me like one. Funny thing was, when my 9 other exes later showed up at my door begging for another chance, he was the one who stepped between us. He grabbed my hand, eyes blazing, and growled, "That's enough. We're going to Vegas. This time, it's for real." I slipped my hand free, my tone as cold as his had once been. "Sorry, Julian. You were only ever a stand-in." The next morning, I strutted into the law firm with my favorite designer bag swinging from my arm. I placed a folder on the sleek mahogany desk. "Mr. Watson, darling, I need you to draft a divorce agreement." Julian barely glanced up from the file he was reviewing. The lenses of his gold-rimmed glasses glinted as his brows drew together. He gave a short, humorless laugh. "Unbelievable." I tilted my head, smiling sweetly. "That's not a very professional response, counselor. Should I take my business elsewhere?" He looked at me with the weary patience of a man who'd seen this too many times. I drummed my nails on the desk until he sighed in defeat. "This firm has a dozen lawyers who handle divorces. You don't have to keep coming to me." "But I only trust you, Julian," I replied, all innocence and sincerity. He finally gave in.
"Fine.
IDs, marriage certificate. Any kids? Shared assets." I took a seat across from him. "No children. No joint property. I'm the guilty party, so I'll waive any claims." The steady rhythm of his typing suddenly stopped. He took a deep breath, his voice tight when he spoke again. "This makes 10, Mila. 10 divorces in 1 year. You're always the one at fault, and always right after the 1-month mark. Is marriage just a sport to you?" I smiled lightly. "Have I broken any laws?"
No.
"Then what's the problem? 2 consenting adults can marry or part ways whenever they wish. It's a personal choice, not a crime." Julian's jaw tensed. "It's not my problem, except for the fact that I was one of those marriages. Doesn't it strike you as the least bit inappropriate to keep coming back to me?" "Inappropriate?" I echoed with a tilt of my head. "You were the one who taught me how this business works." He didn't reply, just pushed a freshly printed contract toward me. "Let's hope this is your final round. I'll take that as a blessing." I gathered the papers and headed out. Outside, leaning against a sleek sports car, was a young man in a loose varsity jacket and a cap pulled low. His grin was lazy, almost boyish. My current husband, Leo Sterling, the rebellious second son of the Sterling family, famous for his charm and his inability to stay committed. Soon to be my former husband. "All sorted out?" he asked as I approached. I waved the papers. "Signed, stamped, and ready. Give it a read, and we're officially over." He scanned the pages, then smirked. "No attempt to drag things out? No last-minute alimony request? You're full of surprises." I flashed a professional smile. I take pride in my efficiency. "If anything changes during the cooling-off period, you know where to find me." Leo chuckled, though there was a flicker of disappointment behind it. "Well, thanks. If it weren't for you, I'd probably be stuck marrying some heiress my family picked out." I patted his shoulder. "Relax. I'll keep our separation under wraps for now. How long we can keep the illusion up depends on you. Because here's the truth, this is my job. I'm what you might call a professional wife. My clients are wealthy, high-status men who need a spouse for convenience. Some need to appease their families, others to smooth over business deals or maintain a public image. They don't want love, just appearances. That's where I come in. I play the devoted, elegant wife. We sign a watertight prenuptial agreement, and when the arrangement ends, we part ways cleanly. No drama, no attachments, just payment for services rendered. I was just about to wish Leo goodbye when a black limousine pulled up to the curb, glossy as a mirror and twice as ominous. The limousine door opened, and a striking woman stepped out. She froze for a brief second when her eyes landed on me. We were dressed almost identically, soft pink knit dress, mocha cardigan, the kind of chic, approachable look favored by elegant socialites. Except hers was a limited edition designer piece, and mine was a very convincing imitation. Her lips curved into a cool, dismissive smirk. I knew that face. Isabel Croft, Hollywood's newest golden girl, fresh off her Crystal Spire win. Critics called her the nation's sweetheart. I called her my occupational hazard. A moment later, Julian exited the building, still composed in his crisp, tailored suit. Isabel's expression lit up instantly as she swept toward him, looping her arm through his. There you are. You didn't text back, so I came to find you. You're not upset, are you? A rare smile softened Julian's face. Not at all. I just finished up. Where to tonight? Her voice turned sugary. Wherever you want, darling. Then she cast me a sideways glance, the kind of look meant to slice cleanly without leaving visible marks. Oh, so that's why you were ignoring me. Dealing with your ex again? Her tone was innocent enough, but every word was sharpened to draw blood. It wasn't exactly shocking that Isabel and I knew each other. We'd gone to the same acting academy. She was the star student who'd rocketed to fame, and I was her stand-in. When the scripts called for the dangerous stunts or unflattering angles she refused to shoot, I was the one who stepped in. Even my short-lived marriage to Julian was part of her mess. She was the adored one, the one who'd broken his heart. I was merely the resemblance he clung to after she left him for fame. Their romance had once been the envy of our campus, until her career took off and she dropped him to protect her public image. In his anger, Julian married me, her bargain bin double. I had no clue at first. But after enough drama to fill an entire soap opera, they finally made up, and he divorced me to return to his true love, generously leaving me half his assets as a farewell gift. That was the moment I realized something important. Being a substitute wife paid better than being a body double. And so, a business idea was born. Julian's voice snapped me out of the memory. He glanced between me and Leo, his tone clipped. She's here for another divorce. Another? Isabel's eyes traveled over me, then flicked to Leo with disdain. Your taste really has nosedived. From my stand-in to this. She gestured at Leo like he was a bad thrift store find. You'll take anyone these days, huh? Guess you've found a new way to scam your way up. I gave her my brightest grin. You're right. I can't compete with your market value. My current ex just happens to be a regular billionaire, that's all. Leo, catching the cue, removed his cap with a smirk. His perfectly tousled hair gleamed under the sunlight, and his grin could have sold perfume. She's exaggerating, he said lightly. I'm just a guy with a few billion in loose change. Nothing impressive. He leaned in and winked at me. So, ex-wife, what are you planning to do with the $50 million I'm giving you in the settlement? It took every ounce of restraint not to applaud. The man had an instinct for theatrics. Isabel might have been a rising star, but she wasn't old money. She'd clawed her way into the spotlight and loved reminding everyone she didn't need a rich husband. Yet her current net worth wouldn't even break 9 digits. Leo's playful eye hit exactly where it hurt. I matched his energy with ease. First thing I'll buy is a yacht. Then a mansion. After that, maybe I'll buy a production studio and hire a certain actress to be my body double. Leo nodded approvingly. Good financial planning. I've taught you well. The perfect 1-2 combo. Isabel's face froze mid-smile, her expression twitching as she sized Leo up again. I could practically hear the gears turning as she realized she'd badly underestimated him. Still, she recovered quickly, plastering on a look of gentle concern. You probably don't know this, handsome, but that's just how Mila operates. She'll smile sweetly while bleeding you dry. Be careful. She turned to Julian, adjusting his tie like a doting girlfriend. Darling, we'll be late for dinner. Let's not waste time on irrelevant people. Then, to my disbelief, she actually asked Leo for his number. Right in front of Julian. I couldn't help the laugh that escaped me, but Leo beat me to the punch. He gave a polite smile. I'm flattered, but I'm still technically married. We're in the cooling-off period, and I take my vows seriously. I can't accept advances from other women, no matter how stunning. The look on Isabel's face was priceless, half fury, half humiliation. She spun on her heel and stormed off. Julian followed, shooting me a complicated glance before disappearing into the luxury car. As the limo pulled away, I turned to Leo, palm out. So, ex-husband, about that $50 million? He laughed and smacked my hand in a high five. What $50 million? We agreed on 2. I can pay in installments if you're flexible. I sighed. Figures. I've met my match in the art of creative lying. He leaned closer, grinning. Or, we could skip the divorce entirely. Make it official. Then all my money's yours. I rolled my eyes. Nice try. I don't mix business with fantasy. My career was marriage. The temporary kind. After parting ways with Leo, I headed straight for the bank. A few minutes later, a notification pinged. $2 million, deposited right on schedule. I checked the balance and smiled. I was one step closer to my financial target. Then my phone rang. The caller ID flashed. Ex-husband number 9. "Hello, Miss Thorne," came the familiar baritone. "There's a family event this Saturday at 8. You're required to attend. The usual fee will be wired in advance. Dr. Eris Thorne, 32, renowned cardiac surgeon, 0 time for dating." He'd hired me to play the devoted spouse to keep his meddling family at bay. Even though our divorce was finalized a month ago, our agreement included a 6-month clause where I'd appear as his wife for social functions. And so, the show went on. Business was booming, and I wasn't about to let old heartbreak, or a certain smug lawyer and his superstar girlfriend, distract me. Love was a liability. Money was motivation. And I was very, very good at my job. Saturday evening, I slipped into a perfect wife outfit. Domestic, but clearly expensive. A professional wife has standards, after all, and I wasn't about to let a client look bad. Dr. Eris Thorne waited outside his sleek villa when I arrived. Tall, refined, and immaculate in a white jacket, he radiated calm precision. Even the faint antiseptic scent around him screamed surgeon. I looked down at my own outfit and smiled. White too. Smart choice. For someone like Eris, anything not sanitized or colorless was a contamination risk. He nodded politely and offered his arm, his gloved hands pristine. I quickly slipped on a pair of lace gloves I'd brought just for him and rested my hand lightly on his sleeve. His faint frown disappeared. Crisis averted. We entered a grand European-style mansion where the small family dinner he'd mentioned turned out to be a full-scale gathering of at least 40 people. And, naturally, we were the last to arrive. Every pair of eyes turned our way as we took our seats. A woman seated near Eris's mother wasted no time. "Well, look who finally showed up. You hardly ever come to these gatherings. So tell me, dear, what do you do all day?" If only she knew, my days were spent billing hours and collecting paychecks from men like her sons. Eris's frown was immediate, but I calmly placed my napkin in my lap and replied sweetly, "My husband works long hours at the hospital, so I take care of the household. But I also pursue my own interests. He calls me a housewife because he worries too much. I'm actually quite independent." Translation: mind your business, and thank you for your concern. The woman's smirk faltered. I rested my hand lightly over Eris's. "Right, darling?" A hint of a smile touched his lips. My wife is exactly right. The tension had just begun to ease when a familiar voice sliced through the air. "A housewife, really? No other source of income, Miss Thorne? Sounds rather dependent to me." That voice. I turned, and there he was, Julian Watson in his perfect suit, Isabel Croft on his arm. Of course. He shouldn't have been here. Eris hadn't mentioned Julian on the guest list. Eris leaned toward me and whispered, "My mother hired him as legal counsel for her company. She insisted he join tonight." Fabulous. My first time handling 2 ex-husbands in one room. But I'd dealt with worse. I could play this game in my sleep. I put on my most radiant smile and nestled closer to Eris. "Honey, it sounds like someone is questioning my integrity." Eris, bless him, caught on instantly. His voice was steady and polite. "Of course my wife has her own income. She invests, though modestly. It's not something we'd trouble others with." Julian chuckled, pulling out his chair. "Investments? Fascinating. Care to elaborate, Ms. Thorne? Perhaps I can give you some professional advice." He made a point of emphasizing Ms. Thorne twice. Subtle as a hammer. Eris's brow furrowed. "You two know each other?" "Know him? He was the one who started this entire career of mine. My first ex-husband." I met Julian's gaze and smiled coldly. "Mr. Watson is an excellent lawyer. Surely he remembers his code of ethics. Or are you moonlighting as a financial consultant now?" The corner of his mouth twitched, but before he could retort, Isabel jumped in, her tone sugary sweet and laced with poison. "Oh my, Mila. I could swear I saw you at Julian's office a few days ago, signing divorce papers. And now you're Mrs. Thorne? Julian, darling, am I hallucinating, or has your ex been multitasking again?" The room went dead silent. Every head swiveled toward me. Eris stiffened beside me. Not good. His jaw clenched, and he began rubbing his wrist, his tell when anxious. "Time to act." I stood abruptly, blinking back furious tears. Miss Croft, I don't understand what you're implying. My husband and I have been married for over a year. As a public figure, perhaps you should think twice before spreading baseless rumors. For a brief moment, Isabel looked startled. Then she recovered, lips curling into a triumphant smile. Rumors? That's what you call it? You go from one man to another, and you still try to play innocent. I was seconds away from throwing my wine in her face, when Eris's mother leaned forward, her expression sharp. Miss Croft, are you saying what I think you're saying? Isabel lifted her chin, feigning grace. Oh, don't be angry. I only thought you should know who you've welcomed into your family. Mila and I were classmates. She came from unfortunate circumstances. Her mother took her own life on our university campus, and later, Mila tried to trade favors with a producer to get a role. Her tone dripped with fake pity. I hired her as my body double out of kindness. I didn't expect she'd use that face to trick respectable men. Gasps rippled through the room. The weight of judgment pressed in from all sides. My fingers tightened around the stem of my wine glass. I was already calculating the minimum sentence for assault with a stemware weapon. Before I could make a move, Eris rose. He placed a steady hand over mine, his expression calm but firm. I'm sorry for this unpleasantness. My wife and I have had disagreements lately, but divorce has never been on the table. It's unfortunate that someone would exploit that to cause trouble. I take full responsibility for bringing her here tonight. He turned to me, voice softening. Darling, I'm sorry you've been put through this. I blinked, genuinely touched. The man was saving me, his hired wife, from public humiliation. A saint in latex gloves. I leaned into him, letting a few carefully timed tears fall. Thank you, I whispered, quietly promising myself he'd get a discount on his next invoice. Then, to everyone's surprise, Julian stood too. He caught Isabel by the wrist, his voice tight with control. Isabel, that's enough. He faced the crowd, adjusting his glasses. My apologies, everyone. My girlfriend has been under immense pressure from work. I'm afraid she's mixing fiction with reality. Miss Thorne and I have only spoken briefly at a banquet. That's all. The entire room froze. Even I was caught off guard. I had expected a verbal execution, not protection. Isabel turned on him, eyes wide with disbelief. Julian, what are you? But he didn't look at her. His gaze met mine across the table, steady, unreadable, and far too complicated for comfort. The dinner party ended in a predictable mess. Eris guided me outside, his hand steady at my back, but we barely made it into the garden before running into Julian. He was supposedly escorting a tipsy Isabel home, but the way he lingered there told me he'd been waiting for us. The two men locked eyes, tension so thick it almost hummed in the air. Eris shrugged off his jacket and gently placed it over my shoulders. It's chilly out. You'll catch cold, he said quietly, then turned his attention to Julian. Mr. Watson, is there something you need? Julian's eyes flicked to the coat around me, his voice clipped. I need a word with Mila. Eris gave a short, humorless laugh. I don't think that's possible right now. Your girlfriend insulted my wife in front of an entire room of people. She needs some peace. Julian didn't back down. In that case, may I apologize to Ms. Thorne directly? I wanted to refuse, but I couldn't. Julian had drafted nearly every one of my divorce agreements. He knew too much about my past to ignore. And his appearance tonight felt far too deliberate to be coincidence. I turned to Eris with a soft, apologetic smile. Give me 5 minutes. I'll meet you at the car. He didn't like it, but he nodded. His fingers lingered on mine before he let go, his voice a low murmur. I'll be nearby. Call me if anything happens. Then, unexpectedly, he brushed his lips across my forehead. The warmth of his breath sent a jolt straight through me. He'd never shown that kind of affection before. Before leaving, he shot Julian a look so cold it could have frozen steel. As soon as Eris disappeared, Julian closed the distance between us, pressing me back against the garden wall. Mila, he hissed, what exactly are you playing at? 3 days ago, you were finalizing a divorce, and now you're back to pretending you're someone's wife. What kind of dirty scheme are you running? I smiled, lifting my chin. A dirty scheme? Really, Mr. Watson? You of all people should be careful with your wording. I've broken no laws, harmed no one. I simply attended a dinner party with an ex-husband. Where's the crime in that? He grabbed my wrist, his grip tight but trembling slightly. So, Isabel was right, he bit out. About you and that producer? My laughter cut through the tension. sharp and humorless. You've already made up your mind, haven't you? Then why bother asking? I moved to walk away, but he stepped in front of me again, eyes blazing with wounded pride. You're doing this to get under my skin. You want me jealous. But you know I love Isabel. Is all this really worth ruining yourself over? I could have rolled my eyes into another dimension. There is nothing more exhausting than a man convinced the world revolves around him. Truth be told, part of me had enjoyed hiring him for my divorces. It was a small, personal revenge. But I also trusted him. Julian might be arrogant, but his ethics were unshakable. He'd never betray client confidentiality. If he had, Isabel would have known about my 10 marriages long ago. Whatever feelings I'd once had for him had died the moment he handed me our divorce papers and told me I'd only ever been Isabel's stand-in. For a short while, I'd seen him as my savior. In the end, he'd proven I was nothing but a replacement. And unfortunately, Isabel had spoken the truth earlier. My family had once been wealthy, my father a real estate developer. That ended in college when his company collapsed under scandal. Accusations about poor construction spread like wildfire. Investors pulled out, and in desperation, my father borrowed from loan sharks. It was useless. The company folded. The creditors came in waves. During one confrontation, my father's anger got the better of him. He suffered a stroke and died on the spot. My mother, desperate and broken, tried to marry me off to a man twice my age to escape the debt. When I refused, she came to my university, climbed to the top of the main building, and jumped. That was the day I stopped believing in dreams. My family was gone, the debts were mine, and survival was all that mattered. I wanted to act, to earn enough to buy freedom, but life doesn't hand out miracles. Then Julian appeared, steady, confident, offering security. All I had to do was marry him. I thought it was salvation. Instead, it was another lesson in disappointment. I looked at him now, forcing a smile, even as my eyes stung. Think whatever you want, Julian. Believe this is about you if it makes you feel better. Just remember, you owe me. Keep my secrets, and we'll call it even. I need money and more than you could ever give. After tonight, we're done. I left him in the garden and went to the car. Eris was waiting, calm as ever. He didn't press me for answers, just started the engine and drove in silence. After a while, he asked softly, "Are you all right?" "I'll survive," I said. "Sorry about your family's party. I probably tanked your evening, though I'll still have to charge you for the time." A faint smile curved his lips. He reached over and buckled my seatbelt himself. "You'll be fully compensated. If anyone deserves an apology, it's you." I had to bite back a grin. Wealthy people had a lovely habit of treating money as an all-purpose bandage. It was one of their better qualities. He hesitated. "Your parents? They're gone. It's ancient history. Next time I'll just invent a better backstory so it won't cause any awkwardness." Eris suddenly hit the brakes. He removed his gloves and turned toward me, his voice steady but earnest. "That's not what I meant. I just realized I don't really know you, Mila. I'd like to. Will you let me?" I blinked, a bit thrown off. "Sure, I'll update your client file and send it over. Full transparency. Thank you again for backing me up." A crease formed between his brows. "I don't want your file. I'm not talking about business." That kiss. Oh, the forehead one? "Don't worry, I'm not billing you for it. I know it was just to make Julian back off." He didn't respond. The silence thickened, heavy and unfamiliar. I reached for the door handle, only to find it locked. He leaned slightly closer, stopping just short of touching me. His hand hovered by my cheek. "That kiss wasn't for show," he murmured. "It was real." I froze, unable to look away. The air between us buzzed with something I couldn't name. Then he sighed, unlocking the door. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you." I slipped out quickly. "This is my stop. Thanks for the ride, ex-husband number 9. He blinked. "Number 9? That's right. 8 before you." He looked like he wanted to ask more, but I was already walking away. Rule number 1 in this line of work: never fall for a client. Emotions complicate contracts, and broken hearts don't pay invoices. And me? I was nothing if not professional. That disastrous dinner party was a wake-up call. If I didn't start managing my ex-husbands properly, next time our paths crossed might turn into an even bigger mess. So, I went ahead and terminated the remaining contracts with Exes 1 through 8. It meant losing some side income, but I had already made more than enough. Now, I only needed to wrap up things with number 10, Leo, and number 9, Eris. Once that was done, I'd finally have enough to pay off the last of my family's debts. Honestly, I still didn't get it. These men were rich, attractive, and accomplished. Why couldn't they just date real women instead of renting me as a temporary wife? Still, I wasn't complaining. As long as it wasn't illegal or immoral, I was more than happy to collect their money. Then, out of nowhere, ex-husband number 8 contacted me. He wanted to have dinner together, said he was sentimental, and wanted to properly say goodbye. I didn't think much of it. Number 8 was a small-time actor, probably the least successful of all my fake husbands. He was charming enough, with that baby-faced look and smooth words. The reason we'd gotten married in the first place had been ridiculous. He'd wanted to make a girl jealous after she got a boyfriend. So, he'd married me out of spite, flashed the certificate in her face, and divorced me a week later. I wasn't planning to break my new rule of no contact with exes, but then he offered me a $1 million farewell fee. $1 million for one dinner? You'd have to be insane to say no. I dressed up, ready to end things on a high note. Then he texted, saying he was afraid of paparazzi and asked me to come to his apartment instead. He sent me the address. I didn't think twice. Of course, he'd want privacy. I put on a cap and mask, disguised myself as a delivery girl, and went straight there. As soon as I knocked, the door flew open and he yanked me inside. The room was dim, lit by a few flickering candles. A steak dinner waited on the table beside an open bottle of wine. The smell of alcohol hung heavy in the air. I frowned and pulled my arm free. Thanks for the effort, but I don't eat steak. Romance, as usual, wasn't on my menu. He blinked in surprise, then smiled that practiced pretty boy smile. Rough day, sis. Have a drink with me? Fine, but no touching, I said, sitting down. He poured 2 glasses of wine and leaned forward on his elbows, studying me. You're always so busy. Are there other clients besides me? A girl's got bills to pay, I said lightly. He laughed and swirled his glass. You know, I've been acting for years and still haven't had a real break. Guess I'm just unlucky. I raised my glass. Then here's to your big break, and downed it in one gulp. It was stronger than I expected. He refilled my glass before asking, so, how many husbands have you had? Think I'd get famous if I collected ex-wives like you. Only 10, I mumbled before my foggy brain caught up. 10? I hadn't meant to say that out loud. Before I could recover, he wrapped his arms around me from behind, laughing. 10? You really are something, sis. The room spun. My knees gave out, and I hit the floor. Just before darkness swallowed me, I saw a woman step out of the bedroom, filming with her phone. 10 ex-husbands? Mila, that's quite a resume, she mocked. It was Isabel. My stomach dropped. Of course. Number 8 shrugged apologetically. Sorry, ex-wife. My goddess needed help. Who am I to refuse her? I gritted my teeth, forcing out words. What's your plan, Isabel? Trying to blackmail me? I'm not even in the industry anymore. What could you possibly gain? She tilted her head, smirking. Maybe nothing from you. But what do you think your rich exes will do when they learn you've had 10 husbands? Think they'll still adore you? Her voice cracked with jealousy. Why you? You're not prettier than me. Not more talented. Why do men like Leo and Eris protect you while Julian still can't forget you? She sneered, waving the phone in my face. They all think you're some angel. I'm going to show them who you really are. I almost laughed. She sounded like a cartoon villain about to deliver her evil monologue. Meanwhile, number 8 took my phone from my limp hand, unlocked it with my fingerprint, and scrolled through my contacts. She only has a few saved. Looks like her exes. Should I call them? Yes. Isabel snapped. Call them all. Let's show them what kind of woman they've been worshipping. I let my body go slack and closed my eyes. They thought I was out cold. Fine. Let's see how this plays out. Half an hour later, the alcohol's fog had started to lift. Just then, sharp knocks echoed through the apartment. Isabel grinned viciously and flung the door open. Standing there were Leo, Eris, and of all people, Julian. Leo shoved past her immediately. Where's my wife? If she's hurt, I'll buy this entire production company and bury your career. Eris followed, still in scrubs, streaks of blood on his gloves. He peeled them off, his expression glacial. I was told my wife is here. I'm taking her home. Julian stayed quiet, but his jaw was tight. Leo glanced at him impatiently. You're one of her exes too. You just gonna stand there? Julian sighed and loosened his tie. If legal representation is needed, call me. Isabel's face twisted with confusion as the three men closed in. I raised a weak arm from the couch. Ex-husbands. Over here. Heroic rescue, please. Leo rushed to me, cupping my face. Are you okay? Did they touch you? Ugh. I groaned dramatically. Eris didn't bother with words. He simply lifted me into his arms, ignoring the wine stains on my dress. The man hated germs, his doing that almost made me emotional. He turned a cold glare on Isabel. Why summon us? She blinked, caught off guard, then snapped. To tell you the truth, she's been lying to all of you. You're just number 9 and 10. She's a manipulative gold digger who uses men and dumps them when she's done. Aren't you angry? Silence. None of them said a word. She mistook it for shock. You should be thanking me for exposing her. Look at her, showing up to another man's apartment in the middle of the night. What kind of wife does that? Julian finally stepped forward, trying to take me from Eris's arms. But he underestimated him. When Eris didn't budge, Julian grabbed my wrist instead. Mila, explain yourself. Are you really this desperate? Leo frowned. Mila, seriously? You could have come to my place. I have better wine and no cheap steak. Even Eris spoke, calm and serious. I worry when you drink. I'd just come out of surgery. If you needed me, I wouldn't have made it in time. Watching them play out this melodrama, I suddenly felt like the least convincing actor in the room. I know I messed up, I murmured. Isabel's perfect mask began to crack. You're all insane.
She's been with all of you.
Why aren't you furious? Eris's gaze turned sharp. Miss Croft, I suggest you stop slandering my wife. She's a good woman, and I won't tolerate this harassment. Next time, I'll press charges. Leo folded his arms. Correction, my wife. You're just her ex. And as for your lies, my lawyers will be in touch. Julian adjusted his glasses. I'll represent them. What a dream team. Isabel stood there, stunned. Her little spectacle, the image she'd planned of me humiliated and abandoned by a chorus of furious men, had failed to materialize. Rage contorted her face. Even Julian, surprisingly, reproved her, his brow drawn tight. Isabel, whatever was between Mila and me is finished.
Stop this.
You are a public figure. Focus on your work, not petty jealousy. That was the first decent thing I'd heard from him in ages. I signaled for Eris to put me down, squared my shoulders, and faced Isabel. I don't know why you hate me so much, but let's be clear.
Julian courted me, he proposed.
I never stole him from you. And he pulled me into your drama.
Sort it out yourselves.
Stay out of my life, and stay out of my ex-husband's lives. I picked up my bag and left with whatever dignity I could muster, flanked by Leo and Eris. Downstairs, I made a less dignified exit and promptly vomited spectacularly. Eris rubbed my back like the perfect gentleman. Leo watched with that amused, bewildered look of his. All your exes are handsome enough to start a boy band, he said. I glared. That's ex-husband number 1, not a client. His playful look vanished, and something unreadable took its place. I thanked both men for the night and mentioned that I hadn't expected number 8 to betray me for Isabel. They both opened their car doors at once and offered to drive me home. The tension between them was obvious, and suddenly my plan felt off script. Maybe we could share a ride? I offered weakly. Eris's face hardened. I don't like sharing rides with strangers, he said, and Leo pouted like a child. I chose Eris, and he carried me to his car, leaving Leo standing on the curb, dumbfounded. I tossed him a sympathetic look, thinking, well, somebody's got to be disappointed. Things were getting strange, in a way I hadn't budgeted for. I treated my ex-husbands as clients, but they were starting to treat themselves like something more. Leo felt like harmless drama, curiosity, and ego wrapped in cash. Eris was different, our arrangement the longest and quietest. He was polite, precise, oddly kind. And yes, I liked him more than I should have, but I reminded myself constantly this was business. After the viral fallout, Isabel finally stopped harassing me. I cleared my accounts, paid off the last creditors, and booked a one-way flight to Tibet the next morning, ready to vanish from the chaos. Then Julian began sending extravagant gifts, daily deliveries that made no sense. He came over once, looking unsettled, and said, "Consider this compensation for what you suffered." I asked if he could just give me cash. He was offended, accused me of only caring about money, then stormed off. I blocked him everywhere. A month later, when the cooling-off period ended, I met Leo to finalize our divorce. He tried one last pitch, confessing he had money and might actually like me, maybe remarry me for real. I smiled and declined, telling him bluntly he was more intrigued than in love. He accepted it with a sad smile and left. Then a secretly recorded clip from number 8's apartment spread like wildfire, the one with 3 men showing up to rescue me. It went viral. I was suddenly notorious, people calling me names, digging into my past, dredging on my family's bankruptcy and my mother's suicide. The internet was merciless. I ignored it, but Eris called first, quietly asking if I needed help. No, I said, but then he said, no matter what, I'm here. My chest skipped. I thought about suing Isabel, but legal action felt like feeding the beast. Then Isabel rang unexpectedly, claiming she didn't leak the video, that it was number 8's doing, and oddly, she apologized. Then she added, bitter as sugar, go see Julian.
He's not over you.
I never understood men. I lost to you. I hung up, incredulous. I cleared the last debts, and relief hit me like a wave. I booked my ticket and started packing. That night, while taking out the trash, I found Julian slumped against the wall, suit rumpled, eyes red. He stumbled forward, begging for forgiveness. I looked at him, really looked, then said, cold as gravel. Sorry. You were just a substitute. I pushed his hand away. He grabbed me, tried to force a kiss. Before anything else could happen, Eris seized Julian's wrist in an iron grip. Mr. Watson, you know what that is, he said quietly, twisting until Julian let go. Julian sputtered, bewildered. Eris cleaned the smear of contact from my face with an antiseptic wipe, then punched Julian hard enough to draw blood, his voice full of contempt. He told Julian off for being selfish, for having destroyed things in the past, for thinking money could buy everything back. I stepped forward and told Julian the same thing, that he was self-absorbed and needed to leave me alone. Julian wilted in defeat, and I turned to Eris with a real smile for the first time in a long while. Coming upstairs to help me pack? I asked. He ruffled my hair, squeezed my hand, and said yes. As we headed toward the stairwell, he asked softly, so, will you remarry me? I teased him. I'll think about it. You still have 8 predecessors to beat. He wanted to know when I'd tell him about the first 8, and I promised, when I'm in a good mood. He asked why he'd been the one I chose. You're the cleanest, I said, and he laughed. And your Princess Carrie is very manly, I added, as he lifted me into his arms. He carried me home, telling me to forget the ex-husbands, and for once, the future looked less like a hustle and more like something I might want.